everyone, welcome back to Wildflower Widows. Nic and Mel here. Today we are lucky enough to be joined by Rebecca Adams, the co-founder and executive director of First Light Widowed Association. Welcome, Rebecca.
Thank you for having me.
First Light is the organisation that Mel and I met through. We both, when we were widowed early on, went searching for something on the internet to help us, and I don't know what Mel searched, but my search was how do I survive losing my husband, and I don't know what I thought that Google was going to bring up. I thought they were going to bring a list of 10 items that would tell me all the ways to get through and out the other side of this.
Wouldn't that be great?
Wouldn't that be amazing?
That didn't happen.
What they did bring up was the First Light Widowed Association, and I went straight to their registration page, signed up. I hadn't even read the website. I just was so desperate that I just signed up, and thank goodness I did. It's really changed my grief journey, and it's changed the horrendous state that I was in not that long ago, and the same for Mel. So we're looking forward to talking to Rebecca today about the organisation and how that all began. So it'd be great, Rebecca, if you could tell us a little bit about First Light.
Yeah, sure. So First Light was founded in 2016, so we've been around for a while now. I lost my husband Daniel to depression in 2013, and I went looking, similar to you, I went Googling, looking for support and information. I think I just assumed there'd be a website or an organisation or just a fact sheet or something about how to process grief and how to rebuild and move through bereavement, and really just found that there was nothing here in Australia. I did find a Facebook social group, and I met a couple of other young widowed people from around Australia, and we bonded and connected and shared through that, which was helpful, but there was nothing formal.
Right.
So the idea came to start something formal for other people to find us more easily, find a community and find information and resources and programs. When I was looking for that support, I found a website in America and a program called Camp Widowed, which didn't really sound very fun, but I was desperate. I'm not a camper. Luckily, it is an event held in a lovely 5-star hotel in America. So I travelled over there. I reached out to the founder of the event and the charity Soaring Spirits in America, who host Camp Widow, and I said, do you know of anything like this in Australia? And they said, no, but you're welcome to come. So crazily or bravely, I booked a flight to America around the 1-year mark, and I attended Camp Widow in San Diego. It was scary, it was terrifying. So I have so much empathy for people who come to Camp Widow here in Australia now, because I know how scary it is to walk into a room of hundreds of people and share your innermost, most painful experience with strangers. It's crazy to think about, but I did it because I was desperate and I knew I needed something. I was clutching at straws. So I went to America, attended Camp Widow, and really at that stage I was 34. I was widowed before the chance to have children, and I couldn't see a life for me beyond what I was feeling. The grief was so intense and the pain was so all-consuming that I just felt like that would be my life for the rest of my life, and I didn't want that to be the case, but I couldn't see any other alternative. Camp Widow showed me that there was the opportunity to rebuild. I didn't quite know how to, but I saw other people, other presenters and speakers and other attendees who were finding a way through and taking steps forward, and it gave me the hope that one day I would too. So it was so profound. I came back from America thinking that was just, I need more people to be able to experience that. The seed was planted to kind of try and bring the event to Australia. I didn't have a clue how I possibly could do that, but luckily I met our co-founders, Lauren Leslie and Karen Stapleton, who got sick of hearing me talk about this Camp Widow thing and said, right, let's have a go, let's give it a crack. But it took quite a few years to really build First Light. We started with a community, a Facebook group, and a website. The website was an important step because we wanted that landing page or landing place for people like us who Googled and desperately went searching. So the website had some basic information and resources, including a library of what existed nationally and state by state. Already there's a lot of people doing great work in the grief space, not all specifically the widowed people, but a lot of help available. When you're grieving, it is hard to find it. It's hard to have the motivation and concentration to go and look for help. So we wanted to facilitate that and send people in the right direction. And then we got to creating our own programs and resources specifically for young widowed people. So I was aged 33 when I was widowed, Lauren was 27 and Karen was in her early 40s. And we just couldn't find anything specifically for people in our age demographic who were still in the workforce, still parenting, worrying about mortgages or trying to buy a home on a single income and navigating the day-to-day life with still quite a long life ahead of them. So that's really where the idea came about. It took a few years for us to get to the point where we were big enough and robust enough to bring Camp Widow to Australia, because it took quite a lot of fundraising. The tickets are heavily subsidised, so that first event we had to fundraise $60,000 in order to, the first event was a one-day event. It was around $25,000 for us to host Camp Widow on top of the ticket sales. As we progressed that to the full 3-day program, we had to fundraise $60,000 to subsidise the tickets. So that's a lot of work. I ended up remarrying and having a young family of my own. I've now got a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old. So I juggle that with First Light. And yeah, life looks very different for me in general now to when, it's 10 and a half years ago since I lost Dan. And I think if somebody told me then that I would have a family again, I would be a mum, and I'd be running a charity for widowed people, I would never have believed them. I probably wouldn't have wanted that, I think. It would have sounded pretty confronting, but I can't imagine anything else.
So Nic and I, we've actually attended 2 Camp Widows now, and I was at the 8-month mark, you were at the 5-month mark of widowed, and I remember I was just so nervous and anxious and not sure what to expect when I signed up to Camp Widow. Luckily I knew a few other widowed people in my local area, so that we could either go together or meet up at the camp. But I guess what I found walking in is I did feel overwhelmed at the amount of people, but I also felt that I had found my people. I didn't feel lonely. I felt understood. I felt a deep sense of comfort, and throughout the Camp Widow, many of us cried, many of us hugged, but we also laughed. And one thing that stands out for me is that at Camp Widow, that was the first time that I had actually laughed since my husband had passed away. And I know for many other widowed people at that camp, also had their first laugh as well.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
And it felt amazing, didn't it?
It did.
Because it felt like they'd never laugh again.
And then in a way you kind of feel guilty for laughing and having fun, but it's like, no, hang on. I'm here amongst other widowed people. We're sad that we've lost our special one, but we also need to remember the good times and find a little bit of joy in our lives as well. So yeah, but
it's a safe space without judgment, isn't it?
That's right.
So nobody's sitting there going, oh my gosh, that widow's laughing, she must be over it already.
That's right.
People
Exactly.
understand.
Yeah,
exactly.
But I mean, Camp Widow is a great place because there's different workshops you can attend, different speakers that you can go and listen to, and also before the Camp Widow you can actually register for whatever workshops and speakers that you want to go to, which is fantastic.
What did you go to? Do you remember?
I went to an art therapy workshop, which was amazing.
I went to that one too.
Yeah, and then some of the topics, what were some of the topics that I went to? There was a creative writing one last year.
The finance, there was one
Finance,
about
yeah.
working your way through your finance.
There were also some fabulous stories about other widowed people sharing their stories, and then talking about self-care and what they do for self-care, which was really inspiring. Had a lady come in and talk about bringing sparkle back into your life.
Oh, I love that.
She was fantastic, wasn't she? Yeah.
And the ones about dating again.
That's
you know,
right.
So for people that are at that point, that was quite nice too. We definitely were not at that point.
We were not in that session too early for us.
That's the great thing about Camp Widow, though. We really try to make it inclusive for everyone.
Yeah.
So we have people in the early weeks and months, like you ladies were,
Yeah.
right through people 10 years down the track, but still looking for tools or motivation.
That's
so when we create the program, we try to make it so that people can choose the session that they want to be in or that's
Yes.
calling to them. So you can try and avoid anything that's too confronting or just not relevant.
That's
So
right. And do you know what I like as well is that because where Camp Widow is, it's part of a hotel, and the function rooms are downstairs, and if you need to get some air or have a break, you can either go back to your room, or there's a beautiful park near the hotel where Camp Widow is held, and it's a beautiful place. Just go and lie on the grass and just
Yeah, a bit of reset.
So
Something I really like. This is what I really like that how you guys operate at Camp Widow is that when you arrive, particularly the first time around, you are freaking out, and you've got people positioned around the place and wearing bright t-shirts so you can see where the people are that they've kind of got their eyes scanning around, so if anyone needs any help, if you're standing alone, and another widowed person doesn't come towards you, they will, and make sure you're kind of shuffled towards someone, or that you've got someone to talk to, and that's huge, and I think that you do that really well, because that was for me one of the biggest hurdles walking in there. Just going, I don't even have any conversation. I'm lucky if I can say, oh look, it's a nice sunny day.
Of course, yeah.
So, for someone to be able to say, hey, let me get you someone to chat to, that was a really big deal.
And all of the presenters and facilitators at Camp Widow are widowed themselves.
Yes, that's right.
So just like me, they've been through it. And those people in those bright coloured shirts, they're our volunteers and our champions. Yeah. And they have all done that process of walking through the door for the first time, whether that's at a catch up or straight into camp, freaking out, and then that ability to recognise that in others and support them.
Absolutely.
They love that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know what I love about Camp Widow is that on one of the nights we have this big dinner, and everyone gets so dressed up. We put on our best frocks, and for some of us, we don't get out anymore because we just want to be little widowed hermits. But it was so nice to actually get dressed up, and
not everyone does. You don't have to.
No,
tracksuit pants are fine.
Anything goes.
I mean, don't come in a bikini. That'd be weird.
Well, the first year I was wearing, I think, a skirt and a denim jacket, so I was pretty casual. And then I'm like, oh, everyone gets dressed up here. Well, next year we're going to get our frocks on.
We went shopping. Actually, Mel and I went shopping before the last one, looking for dresses. And we're like, well, we're going to really do it this year. And then whatever happened, the shops had nothing we liked, and we were like, no. So yeah, they're really, the camps are amazing. But,
and you get to meet a lot of other widowed people. Yep. We got to meet some more widowed people in our region as well. There was a lady who rocked up by herself, didn't know anybody, was trying to find people in her local area, and she was introduced to us, and she found her tribe, so that was really, really good.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, and she's a great girl.
So we try to facilitate that community building. So we let people find each other through geographic location. There are sessions where we sort of get people to put their hand up if they're from this area or this state. Yeah. And then we also have opportunities to connect with others who are a similar age group. We've got like a young widowed round table, a men's round table to help the guys. So we're getting more men along to Camp Widow, which is great, because obviously that diversity is important. And then we also have an event called We Have a Widowed Person for that. I'd love to hear what you guys think of that.
Yep. Different widowed people can come together and share the way that they lost their partner. So if it's a similar circumstance, then they can obviously discuss that together. So there's sort of round tables, and I don't know how best to explain it. Basically, that there's a sign on each table, and it could be cancer, or it could be sudden death, or things like that. And so you can relate to others at that table. So it was, I must admit, walking into a room
with labels,
with all these ways that you can die.
Yeah, but we also expanded that to different experiences beyond how you were widowed. So it can be widowed with young children, widowed before the chance to have children, widowed and travelling. And so if you're desperate to talk to someone who shares a unique part of your experience, whether it was I'd lost my person in an accident and I've never met another person who had that same experience, and I'd really like to find that connection, people can move to that table. Every 10 minutes we ring a bell, so you can stay and keep chatting, or you can use that as a prompt to, I'm going to find another table now. And then people can move around. There's a map, so you can work out where you're going. But it might be like I was widowed before I got to have children, and that was a big part of my trauma. So I loved connecting with others who should share that as well.
That's right.
Widowed with teens, it's sort of like all these different parts of, or different chunks of the widowed experience, and you can go and find someone who you want to, if you want to have that connection or conversation.
And just on that as well, you probably don't remember because you met a lot of people over Camp Widow, but I had all these different tables, and I'm like, well, I could go to that table, or I could go to that table, or that table, and I'm like, I don't know where to go. And everyone's going across to all these tables, and I'm standing at the door going, I don't know where to go or what to do. And I remember saying to you, I don't know what table to go to.
Was that helpful? I hope I was helpful.
No, you were. And I went to a table and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to stay here and just, okay.
Yeah. But I guess if that is confronting too, it's probably worth saying that everything is optional.
That's right.
And some people do walk into that room and go, I can't do this. This is a lot of words. I'm out.
Yeah.
And that's fine. We encourage people to take that walk in the park, go back to your room. It can get overwhelming. It can get...
And it did for me,
Maybe the next year I'm ready to go in and meet a new friend at that table. But it's...
You're right. It was confronting. I went to the table where people had lost someone by an accident, and there was a lot of trauma at that table. So, and it was very early for me. So I stayed for about half the time, and then I kind of just went back to my hotel room and just took a bit of time to just sort of settle myself. But to be able to be around people that had an understanding of sudden loss, they were here this moment, gone the next, no goodbyes, that kind of stuff, and the trauma of, for people having been at those accident scenes, things like that. That's something that you can't really talk about a lot with the general population. If I was out with my friends, I can't really talk to them about what that accident scene looked like, and so there are connections in those types of tables that are really important that you're not going to get anywhere else,
And that's it. I feel as though you can talk about anything and everything with widowed people and not be judged, and it's a safe place to just talk about anything about your partner or what happened, your experience, and that's what I love about being with other widowed people. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Linda. I attended my first Camp Widow in 2022. I was about 4 or 5 months into my widowhood journey. I'd lost my husband in the February of that year. The reason I attended Camp Widow was because I was looking for connection with other people who had lost their husbands. I was looking for people who have also experienced the incredible tragedy and loss of a husband. I was looking for people who could really understand what I'd gone through, and that's when I found First Light and was reading through everything, and I read that they were holding a Camp Widow in Brisbane, and I live close to Brisbane, 3 weeks after, so I thought, I'm going to go. After the keynote, I went up to Michelle Hernandez and I just said to her how inspired I was by her story and what she had done for not only herself in her grief journey, but for so many other people. And we were chatting away, and I said, I just don't know any other widows, and it's so hard. And she said to me, where are you from? And I told her, and she said, you wouldn't believe it, I've just been speaking to a group from that area. And so I was introduced to all these amazing women who've changed my life, and I'm so incredibly grateful that I found the courage and I found the bravery to put myself out there and attend Camp Widow, because those girls have been instrumental in how I feel and how I'm moving through my grief journey. So it was honestly meeting all these wonderful girls that I was able to connect with and share my story, and we really get how each other are feeling. But the other thing, there were wonderful, wonderful workshops that really helped me come to terms with the complexity of my grief, and help me work through those early stages and some of the things that I needed to do, financial, looking after myself, dealing with children, all those things that you find yourself when you're in the throes of a tragic grief. So it was incredibly instrumental in how I move forward in my grief.
Hi, I'm Lou. I lost my husband suddenly and quite tragically, and I had nowhere to go to. I was in a new area, no friends up here to talk to, and wanted to find somebody who could help me relate with what I was going through. Camp Widow, I remember saying to my friends, I'm going to go to this Camp Widow, and they're like, what is Camp Widow? And I said, it's 3 days where I get to be away from the kids. but I'm also going to go and meet every other widow from around Australia. And my friends are going, are you sure you really want to do this? Lou, you're going to be depressed. You're just going to talk to widows all for 3 days. You're going to cry. You're going to be a mess. So no, I'm going to do this. And I went, and I was scared, scared shitless. Met my little tribe there, and there was lots of tears, but there was also lots of understanding, and I did get quite a lot from my first one. I did learn a lot through there, especially in regards to how I was managing myself, but also managing my kids. And just hearing everyone's stories sort of makes you feel that it's not just happening to you. It happens to all of us that become widows. We all have our little moments of, we might think, I wish I'd done things differently. I wish I, might have not done it that way. But it's a journey, and you don't know, and you do what you do, what feels right. So it was nice to know that I wasn't being judged for how I was grieving, or what I was doing was wrong, or there's no right way, there's no wrong way, it's just your way. And it was nice knowing that I had that after listening to everyone else's little stories, and it was good. And then my second one, I was more confident. I was actually excited to go, but the second one I still found really helpful, and I still got little bits and pieces from it that I could take home. Do it. It's scary, I'm not gonna lie, it was scary as all hell for me, but do it. Do yourself the favour. It's worthwhile. It's pack yourself something nice to wear, pack yourself something comfy, go in there with an open mind, but then go in there and gather as much information as you can. It can be a little overwhelming, but if you get all those little bits and pieces, you can look at them 6 months down the track when you feel ready. If you are recently widowed, I cannot speak more highly of connecting with other widows. And Camp Widow is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to do that. Not only, as I said, through connection, but also getting advice, seeking out how other people have dealt with their grief. It is a hard thing, and I know that when you are so overwhelmed, your life has just been ripped apart, and you can't even possibly see clearly, particularly in those first few months of the loss of your husband. If you can find that courage to put yourself out there, you won't regret it, because the people that you meet, the experiences that you have, will just help you so much through your grief. Being able to connect with people, being able to share how you're feeling, and to have your feelings acknowledged by people. If you are recently widowed, reach out to First Light, and it may not even be, you might not be ready for Camp Widow yet, but reach out to First Light, because there is so much support that they can give you. I have walked away from Camp Widow with friendship. I have walked away from Camp Widow with a sense that I'm not alone on this journey, because losing a spouse is an incredibly lonely and isolating experience. So I feel that I'm not alone, because I have people walking alongside me who know exactly what it's like. And I've also walked away with some tools as well that can help me in my financial life, in my spiritual life, just in my normal everyday life. So it's been a wonderful experience. Speakers are fantastic. There was one lady, we'll call her the Sparkle Lady, and she talked about bringing a little bit of joy back into your life. And I just remember she had this sparkly shirt and these sparkly shoes, and instantly I was like, oh wow, I want to be a sparkle lady. She really uplifted me, and I did. I came home and felt amazing after her talk. I added my little bit of sparkle and got a nose ring at the age of 41. And yeah, just I think getting together with other people and hearing other stories and taking little snippets from everybody, little bits of advice or whatever it was really helpful.
The highlight was meeting all these wonderful women who have become an amazing support, and to have that connection.
Another highlight of Camp Widow is our dinners, and we have a dinner on the last night where everyone gets dressed up and it's really nice. You can have a dance and I found that really good actually, because it's nice to actually be able to go out and get dressed up and, you know, have a fancy night, but you're with other people who are also there that are got no partners. So it's not like you're going, you know, when you go to a wedding after you've lost somebody and you're on your own, but you're all dressed up, and then you realise, oh, there's all these couples, I'm on my own. You go to this dinner and everyone's like you, and we all get up and we all have a dance together and we enjoy a meal together, and it just makes you know that you can still do these things.
We have a local catch-ups program, which is how you two met, of
Yes,
course.
it is how we met.
Yes. Our local catch-ups program is run Australian-wide, and it relies on widowed people in our community volunteering to host an event in their town or suburb or city. So we support those hosts by encouraging them to provide select an appropriate venue. So usually it's a public place. We're not bringing people into homes or private spaces. It's a safe public place, but it's also private enough for sensitive conversations. So usually these are cafes or quiet corners of pubs, but somewhere where people can gather and come together and have a cup of tea or just sit over a glass of water and talk and connect. So once somebody volunteers to be a catch-up host, they can reach out to us and we can then help with a little bit of training and support around how to facilitate conversations, how to move things along if the topic of conversation is getting stuck, how to make people feel comfortable to attend and then to share.
Yep.
So a lot of our catch-up hosts offer to meet people prior to the event starting. We've had people say, I really want to come, but I just can't bring myself to walk into that building. So some of our catch-up hosts say, I'll meet you on the footpath, I'll be wearing a red t-shirt and actually help bring them in, which can make a big difference. And we then facilitate and support the facilitation of these events by promoting them within our community. So we have more than 1,400 members nationally here in Australia, but we have a lot of people who engage with our resources and programs outside of being members. So we promote the different venues and locations on our in social media and on our website. We never share, the actual venue. We never promote publicly that a catch-up's happening at this cafe at this time. The privacy and safety of our members is always our highest priority.
Mel and I mean, for those of you that have watched some of our previous episodes, you'll know that Mel and I met through a catch-up from First Light, and we've talked before about what that was like. But when we first went along to a catch-up, we were absolutely freaking out, and we didn't know each other. The catch-up in our local area was relatively new, had been set up not that long before we started going, and so there was about 5, maybe 6 people.
Yeah, about 6 people
at
at the
first one.
Yeah,
and now on average there's probably around 25 in our area that now go, but to each catch-up you might see maybe 11 or 12,
10, 12, yeah,
something like that. That first time, I think a lot of people think, well, what happens at a catch-up? You know, am I going to walk in and is everyone going to say, and how did your person die? And it wasn't like that, and I kind of got a bit of a fright that no one really seemed interested when I first arrived.
You were ready to talk.
I was like, hey everyone, this is what's happening.
Spill the beans.
So what it was really when I arrived was everyone was just sitting chatting about everyday stuff, and it was very relaxed. And Mel arrived, and we both sat there like absolute, you know, rocks, and you know, kind of tried to chat a little bit, and then just slowly the woman that was beside me turned and said to me, "How long has it been for you?" And I said, "Just over 3 months." And she just put her hand on my back, and nothing else was needed. And that kind of made me feel I could just start to chat. And over that first catch up, someone eventually said, you know, how did you lose your husband? And you know, it really just sort of broke the ice, but there was no one going, and then what happened? And then what happened? There was none of that. It was really casual and really felt very safe for me, and it was a really easy baby step into being able to talk about what had happened. Is that how you found it too?
Yeah, well, I think I mentioned in a previous episode that it took me 4 goes to actually get to one of these monthly catch-ups. I cancelled 3 times already because I couldn't leave my house. I was not very social after my husband passed away, and I couldn't stand being around anybody. And so I eventually got out to the first catch-up, and that's when I met Nic, and I was so grateful that I actually got out of the house and attended the catch-up, because it was just so refreshing to finally be with people who understood my pain and my heartbreak. And I mean, look at our friendship now, it's completely bloomed. It's completely bloomed, and you know, we've got such a deep connection, and over time we've met so many other widowed people through these monthly catch-ups. So it's been amazing, and I remember that I hadn't been out socially for so long, and I went out and went to a burger joint, and I'm like, I forget how to order food. Okay, what's everyone else getting? Burgers. Okay, I'll get a burger. And I devoured that burger. It was so good.
I did the same. I kind of went, oh, they're getting a burger. I'll get a burger. Yes. Oh, they're having a cup of tea. I'll get a cup of tea.
We were like little sheep, weren't we? But yeah, really glad that we went to that first catch up, and we basically go to almost every single monthly catch up, except for a few here and there that we can't make. But we really enjoy going because we really enjoy our friendships that we've made through the first light catch ups, and also I guess welcoming new widows and widowers who are joining our group as well, so you know, to help support them in their early grief and their early journey. So I kind of feel as though, I mean, I'm 2.5 years in now.
I'm coming up 2 years in a few
2
days.
years, so I mean, it hasn't been that long yet, but I kind of feel as though we're getting a bit more seasoned, a little bit, you know.
And isn't that an amazing feeling? I remember that, where you sort of feel like at the early days you're just focused on the people further along.
That's right.
And you're trying to follow their footsteps. And I remember this pivotal moment where I realised, oh my gosh, someone's behind me following my footsteps, looking to me for hope or inspiration. That's what's so beautiful about the community, is people can be at their different stages, and it's kind of the wisdom and the support is being passed down the line.
Absolutely. And we enjoy going because we now have these beautiful friendships, but there also feels a responsibility to go and be there for the people that are coming behind us, because they're where we were when we were sitting there like a couple of potatoes at that first catch up. And it's nice to be able to know what they're going through and to be able to kind of help them along as well.
I
mean, really, the people, there's an idea, I guess, out there of widowed people, you know, sitting in rocking chairs or dressed in black with a bonnet on.
We don't do that.
And you know, really, these genuinely are just everyday people like you are, like we are. And had I met them in other circumstances, we would have become really great friends too, because they are just like us. We are all the same. We're just like we were before we were widowed. And so, you know, the friendships that have come out of it are just so natural. It really has been fantastic.
And I mean, we go to lunches and dinners, have coffee, have a few drinks. We've even organised a winery tour with our local group as well. So, you know, we genuinely enjoy hanging out, and they're true friends.
And a few trips. We've now got some trips planned.
We've got a few trips planned as well.
A bit of travel together, which is fantastic.
The catch-ups, I remember talking to a girlfriend and she said, what are widow catch-ups? Do you sit there and cry? And at the start, when I thought about going to a catch-up, I actually did think that. I think, oh, okay, do we go to someone's house and do we sit there in the lounge room with a box of tissues and cups of tea? But what I found was we actually go out and we all pick a different spot. Each month we catch up and we pick a spot, and it might be somewhere new no one's tried. We've done wineries, we've got people that are travelling together now. But yeah, we go and we have a good time and we have a bit of a laugh. And I think that's what's really comforting, is it's not just, we're not sitting in each other's lounge rooms with a box of tissues and cups of teas. We're actually putting ourselves back out there into the world, and sometimes even just the fact of getting a nice dress on, putting some makeup and getting out of the house and going to a restaurant. It feels amazing. to feel that little bit of normality again. So yeah, I look forward to my regular catch-ups because especially at the start for me, it was an out. I got out of the house, I dressed up, I was new to the area, so I got to try all these new places that we could go to. I especially loved the winery tour that we did.
I've attended a number of the First Light local catch-ups, which happen every month around our area. I haven't been able to get to as many as I would have liked just because life gets in the way. But again, it's a really wonderful opportunity to connect with other girls. We've recently just had a man join our ranks as well, so other people. It's a wonderful opportunity to connect with other people and share your journey, but also have fun. I think that's what I probably didn't talk about before. We've had some great times with the friends that I've met. So there is laughter, there is sadness and there are tears, but there's also laughter, and that has been so wonderful again in my grief journey. So the catch-ups are a really great opportunity to connect with other people too. And just recently we had a dinner and I met a new widow. She was widowed in August of last year, and so it was lovely for me being on the other side now. I'm almost 2 years into my journey, to listen to her story. And I just listened to her story because sometimes I think that's what widows need. They need someone to listen to their story. They need someone to validate them, because there's nothing worse when your experience is invalidated. And people who have not gone through this experience don't intend that. That's not their intention, but they just can't understand it. So to be with a group that totally validate everything that you're going through and totally understand it is really wonderful. And so yeah, I listened to this girl and listened to her story, and it was really lovely, and we've formed a lovely connection. So that's the beauty of the First Light catch-ups as well.
I tried other grief groups before and found that they were all elderly people and I didn't connect with them. So I was really struggling finding people my age and in my circumstance to talk to. I stumbled across our little local catch-up, and my first one I was scared shitless. Anyway, I sat there in the car for a good time thinking, come on, I can do this, I can do this. Put a smile on your face and walk in there nice and brave. And I made myself look all good so that I felt confident. Walked in there and sat down and looked at all these other faces that were young, and I thought, oh my goodness, there's so many of us in this area. And that wasn't even everyone that's probably a widow in my area. And I remember just thinking, this isn't fair. We shouldn't be sitting here. We shouldn't be doing this. We shouldn't be catching up, having a meal or a drink. We should have our loved ones with us. But it was comforting to know that what I was feeling wasn't unusual, and it was all normal. Every mood swing, every meltdown, every bit of missing my husband, everything. They were all common stories, and it was something we could all connect to. And it was actually really comforting. Even though I cried, I walked away thinking, I think these people might be my support group that I need. I had best friends and everyone that I could talk to, but no one understands it until they've been through it. So luckily for me, I've found some great friends. Even now it gets a little emotional that I've met them through this, but they're amazing and we have great times when we catch up. Sometimes I think, oh wow, these are my people. Imagine if our husbands were all together here and they all connected to the parties we would have. But it's not that way, and we all get each other. And I look forward to our catch-ups. Every month it gives me an outing to go to where I can talk to people that understand me. And that's probably the most comforting thing, is that they all get me. They get if I'm having a bad day. They get if I'm feeling happy, embrace that moment. And likewise with them.
So generally we eat, talk, sometimes there's a couple of drinks. We've done breakfasts, lunches and dinners. And then outside of the catch-ups, there's a few widows that I've really personally connected with, and so we will go for walks. We might catch up for a drink occasionally. So it's not just for me, it's not just the monthly catch-ups, but I've actually made some lifelong friends that I know I will walk with for the rest of my life. So that is the beauty of First Light, because you do connect with people differently, and so I feel really blessed that I've met some really wonderful women that I've got a lovely strong connection with. But then I'm also really open to meeting new people and sharing our journeys. And I think when you've lost your husband, your spouse is the most intimate relationship you have in your life. To lose that is incredibly difficult, and so to share that with other people and to talk about your spouse and to talk about your love and to share that really again helps with your grief journey, and First Light offers a wonderful safe space to do that.
You can't do it alone, as much as you might try, and trust me, I tried and fell in a heap. So my advice would be to keep on searching and finding your tribe, because it really does make the world of difference. It can, it's just nice to be able to reach out to someone that understands a bad day and can sit and cry with you, or reach out to someone and say, hey, I'm lonely, and they'll get it. They'll get what that loneliness is. So yeah, my advice would be to just go and find your tribe, find your little group, reach out, and don't think you can do it alone. It's too hard. If I hadn't have found First Light, I'd be struggling and trying to communicate how I felt with best friends or family.
And then we also have a program called Newly Widowed Packs. So they're a hard copy suite of fact sheets that cover different topics and themes of widowhood, aimed at people widowed sort of within that first 12 months.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so they include topics like how to navigate anniversaries and birthdays and Christmases, which are a huge, overwhelming challenge.
Yeah.
How to support kids who are grieving if they're parents. The logistics of navigating wills and estates and getting your financial affairs in order. So some really tangible, practical things.
Absolutely.
But also just, what do I do next? How do I start? How do I start taking steps forward? And we've got a fact sheet on what is self-care, because that's a term that's bandied about a lot.
Yeah.
But is that sitting and having a cup of tea? Do I need to sign up into yoga? We're all so busy in our lives, we're not used to checking in with ourselves. So encouraging people to really look after themselves.
And when you're early in grief, you seem to lose all your skills. And so, yesterday you were someone that was organised, you could work your way through certain jobs and things that you needed to do. The minute you go through this grief, you're all scrambled. You can't think about what you should be eating. You can't think about how to do the death administration. You can't think about how to support your kids. You don't know what to do. You're just tumbling around. So that is a really big deal for people that are in the early days. To be able to sit down and have something in front of them, right?
It's called widow brain.
Absolutely.
And I had a bad case of widow brain in my first 12 months.
I think you still got it.
I think I still do have it, yeah. It lingers for a while.
It does,
but I definitely think that those newly widowed packs are amazing, because there's so much that you need to do in the first 12 months, and then your mind is so foggy, you can't think straight. So I think that's a wonderful thing that you have to offer newly widowed people.
Yeah, we love that they're hard copy, because I don't know whether you've ever scrolled the website and read something and thought, oh, where did I read that? What was that? What was that tip? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Whereas these they sit on the coffee table or the bedside table. You can scribble on them and make notes and carry it around with you, or put it down if it's overwhelming. We also have people reach out and request a newly widowed pack on behalf of someone in their community. So that happens quite often. If someone's colleague's been widowed, or a neighbour or friend, they can request it for themselves and then pass it on when they feel like the timing's right. And we're so lucky that these are all offered free of charge, because they're covered through grants and donations and sponsorships.
That's amazing.
So it's wonderful. We send them out Australia-wide, and they're just requested through our website.
So before we wrap up, we might just chuck a couple of questions at you.
Yes.
If that's okay.
Yeah.
What have you got?
what have I got? All right. So, what has been a highlight for you since establishing First Light?
Oh gosh, it's been nearly 7 years, so there's quite a few, actually nearly 8 years, sorry. But I'd have to say the highlight is definitely experiencing Camp Widow here in Australia. It was the dream that really started First Light and kicked it off. For a long time, it felt like a pipe dream. I didn't know whether we'd ever get to the point of hosting the event here in Australia, but we've had 3 Camp Widows now. We're getting ready for our 4th Camp Widow in May. And standing in that room on that first morning, watching people walk in, I get goosebumps because I see so much of myself in some of those spaces. And as I said, we're positioned, we're scanning faces, we're looking for the people that need that extra help. And I've gone up and approached people and said, I'm Rebecca, how are you? And just sort of drawn them in and then found someone I could introduce them to, and then you're back on, right, who else can I help? And then from that Friday morning through to that Sunday lunch, seeing the transition in people is just, it's so hard to put into words. I leave the Camp Widow weekend absolutely exhausted, but with my cup overflowing, and just, I love seeing people's light switch back on, or the laughter, seeing someone come in on the Friday morning on the verge of tears, and then on the dance floor on the Saturday night, fist pumping and laughing. I'm like, yes, that's what Camp Widow is for.
There is a dance floor.
There's a photo booth and there's a dance floor, and it's all optional, but honestly, we had a lady last year who I've known for a really long time, since before Camp Widow or before First Light was founded. I met her socially, a lady from Cairns. She was dancing last year and I was giving her the thumbs up. The next day she said to me, I think it had been 8 years for her and she had never danced. She was doing really well. She'd been on solo trips around the world. Like, she's living a fabulous life, but had never danced at a wedding or at a party. She just couldn't. She felt like she'd be judged or was just too much in her own space. And she danced all night. And I think if you had asked her, are you going to dance at Camp Widow? She'd say, oh gosh, no, like, I'm not dancing at Camp Widow. But it's just that freedom of being who you are without judgment. So I think, bringing Camp Widow to Australia and seeing people year and again be transitioned by the experience is just, amazing.
Thank you.
Great. And you've sort of really already answered this, but I just want to clarify it again. For somebody that's living in an area where there isn't a local catch-up nearby to them, can you just clarify what they need to do to be able to set one up? I mean, obviously they need to join First Light to start with. How do they then contact you guys and organise a catch-up?
So all of our catch-ups, first of all, are promoted on our website. So firstlight.org.au, we have an event calendar, and you'll be able to see if there is already one in your area. If not, you can email us at catchup@firstlight.org.au, and we've got a page on our website about this. And if you're willing to host one, we can guide you through that if you feel that you're ready to do that. If not, we can keep you on our list, but if somebody else in your local area is willing to take that step. If there is no catch-up and you're not willing to be the facilitator, there is also support available online through our community. So if there's no catch-up and no one's about to start one, you can still find that support online.
Absolutely.
By becoming a member.
Fabulous. Great.
And Rebecca, as a widow yourself, what advice would you give a newly widowed person in their early days of grief and I guess finding hope for the future?
I think if I go back to what helped me, it was just hanging in there. Those first few months and probably even years, the pain felt so unbearable and I couldn't see a way through. I couldn't imagine a day where I wasn't consumed from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to bed with pain. It was just so heavy. And there were times where I had to just get through it in 10-minute chunks at a time. I remember sitting at my desk at work and thinking, I'll just get through the next 10 minutes. I'm just going to focus on that next 10 minutes and then I'll go from there, or an hour. Like, I got to the point where I was like, okay, it's 10 o'clock. I'll make it till 11 o'clock. If I need to go home at 11 o'clock, I will. But it was just not thinking about how am I going to survive this, how am I going to, afford my mortgage. It was just, how am I going to get through the next 10 minutes? And just to keep showing up. Because as hard as it feels, it won't always feel that way, because we naturally change and evolve, and the strength does come.
Yeah, so true.
Just keep showing up.
Just keep showing up.
Say that
and also reach out. Take those steps to build a community, because you may not find your best friend, but there are people who can share and understand.
That's right.
So reach out, and try and take that brave step. I'm constantly amazed by the bravery that I see in widowed people, because I think I would never have travelled to America by myself and gone to a conference if I wasn't so desperate to go to somewhere called Camp Widows. So I see it all the time. I see it in you ladies, all the things that you're doing, and I love that. So try and find your own way to be brave and take a step.
Well, I think you're right. We are very much driven by desperation
Yeah.
when we're widowed. Very much driven
It
by
feels like you don't have a choice. Like it's not that, oh, I'm going to try and do this. It's like I can't not try something because what's sitting here is just not bearable.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
So I First Light have helped a lot of young people that have been widowed to date. If you could wave a magic wand, what would First Light look like in 5 years' time? And what are the obstacles that you've currently got that might be something that needs to be jumped to reach that?
Yeah, gosh. Well, we have we've identified, I guess, our goals for 5 years' time. Our strategic plan outlines our goals to be that First Light is financially sustainable. So we reliant at the moment on donors and corporate sponsors and grants, and it is a struggle. I mentioned about fundraising for Camp Widow. To keep those tickets low, we heavily subsidise the cost of running a 3-day conference with catering. It's a big effort. We're lucky that all of our presenters volunteer their time, and our team is heavily led by volunteers. But the biggest hurdle we have is that fundraising challenge. Because at the moment, if we don't reach our corporate sponsorship target for this camp, we're diverting our funds from salaries and programs so that we can keep doing Camp Widow. So in 5 years' time, we'd love to have an endowment fund where we're like a trust and our operating costs are covered by that. And we would love to have a bigger team with a marketing person so that more people can find us. We know, as I said, there are 55,000 widowed people under the age of 55 in Australia. Only a few thousand of them are probably aware of First Light. So we've got a big project to do about raising awareness and letting people find us and access that support. And then more program facilitators to help run our programs, including expansion of our program. So we'd love an online version of Camp Widow, because not everybody can get to Brisbane once a year. But it's very hard to replicate that immersive experience of 3 days together online, but there would be an alternative option. So the financial stability will help us grow our team, to expand our programs and expand our reach, and that's really our goal. In 5 years' time, hopefully that's where we are.
Fingers crossed, we'd love to see that happen. So just out there to corporate Australia and philanthropists and anybody out there that's watching this, please give some thought to First Light, and if you are in a position to help, look at people like the three of us. Think about all the people out there, all the young widows still raising children, still trying to pay their mortgages, still having to go to work, while they're navigating this absolute disaster that's come down on their lives, and then look at what First Light does for them every day to keep them afloat and to give them hope and a future. Please reach out to First Light if you can help them. And I'm not good with statistics, but you might know more than me about Australia and the numbers of widowed people out there right now. Where is it sitting in Australia?
Yeah, according to the last census, there are 55,000 widowed people under the age of 55. Under the age of 45, there are 18,000.
Wow.
So yeah, there's quite more than you would expect.
If there's that many out there, and we can help people find their way to organisations like First Light, there'll be so many that are less alone, because it's such a lonely place. Grief, we felt so alone until we found First Light. So if you are out there watching this, do reach out. There are amazing organisations like First Light that can help you.
Rebecca, thank you so much for your time today. It was lovely chatting with you. Nic and I are so in awe about what you do with First Light and your team, and you've certainly changed our lives and many other lives as well. So really thank you for all the work that you and your team do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But likewise, I think the power of First Light is in community. All our programs are about community, supporting community. So every single person that shows up and participates is really the power of First Light. So thanks to the two of you. I love seeing what you're up to. I love watching your channel and your adventures. It's amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
and
a lot.
we honestly wish you so much success, and I'm sure we'll be part of that too, hopefully, constantly going to catch-ups and Camp Widows. So thank you so much once again, Rebecca.
Thank you, ladies.
And don't forget to like and subscribe and share our channel. We'd love to connect with you through our other videos and connect with other widow people who might need some connection as well. So thank you very much.
Thanks guys, see you later.